Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome to my Champions League Round 5 prediction video, the second final round of the Champions League group stage. I cannot believe how fast the season's been going. It feels like just yesterday we were making up the Barcelona Bayern Munich memes. But here we are, second final round of the group stage, and we've got some fantastic games to talk about. Now I do want to give you guys a tiny bit of a disclosure before we jump straight into the predictions. I am a tiny bit busy today, so unfortunately the editing in today's video won't be quite as bam bam boom as possible. But I do want the video to come out in time, and I think it will still be a good one. Don't forget to put your predictions down below. But jumping straight into my predictions, which I think you guys came for, we start off with Salzburg versus Chelsea. Now as we know, round 5 of the Champions League group stage is so insanely important. This is where you seriously can't lose the necessary points, otherwise you could go down to the Europa League, or even worse, get knocked out of European football as a whole.
Stop Drogba getting himself into further trouble.
But looking at these two teams, Salzburg versus Chelsea, both have been relatively good this Champions League season. As we know, last time they faced each other, it was that draw in Graham Potter's first game in charge. But this time around, I do think Chelsea will have, well, I want to say no problem, but relatively few problems to take a 1-0 win. As we know, unfortunately, they are struggling with injuries though, especially with Reece James and N'Golo Kante, the two pillars of their defense. But at the end of the day, they've still got enough quality and they should take down Salzburg. Although saying that, it won't be easy for them, as across all competitions, Salzburg have only lost one game this entire season. They've been seriously impressive, especially on the counter-attack. They could really take off a team like Chelsea. But looking at Kepa Arrizabalaga's form in terms of a goalkeeper getting clean sheets across all competitions, I do think Chelsea are defensively solid now. Sevilla versus Copenhagen is next. Now talk about two seriously underperforming teams. We've got Sevilla, who are like 15th place in the Liga, versus Copenhagen, who are 8th in the Danish league. Seriously unimpressed by both of these two teams. It was a draw last time around, but I do think Sevilla will take this one. I've got no idea why I'm going for Sevilla. I guess they've just got the bigger names, to be honest with you. I know that's not what I should say in these prediction videos. I should back everything with stats. But to be honest, it just is a gut feeling. Looking at Copenhagen though, they did draw to Man City somehow in their previous game. No idea how that happened. I do think Sevilla, as I said, will take this one, but it'll just be a 1-0 win. We then have a gigantic game with Benfica versus Juventus. Now looking at Juventus, they've been dreadful across all competitions. Yes, their form has slightly looked tiny bit better in the Italian league, but in the Champions League, they have been awful. Just losing 2-0 to Haifa, the Israeli team.
You people disgust me.
I don't know what's happened to Juventus. They've gone from absolutely dominating in areas of European football to really falling off their pedestal. And looking at them versus a Benfica team who are unbeaten across all competitions, I can only see one winner. I can't believe I'm saying this about Juventus, but I can see Benfica winning this one 2-1. Borussia Dortmund versus Man City is next. Now, as we know, it was a very close contest last time they faced each other, with a 2-1 win in Man City's favour. To be honest, I think it'll be the exact same this time around, with another 2-1 win. I mean, I've seen Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga. They've gotten some very convincing results as of late, but the one problem with this Borussia Dortmund team is they tend to lack a tiny bit of consistency. And versus Man City, who dare I say has been the most consistent team in world football over the last 5 years, I can only see one winner. And looking at Erling Haaland versus his last team, I mean, the man's an absolute robot. He's got no remorse. We then have Celtic versus Shakhtar. Now, obviously, looking at Celtic, they haven't been great in the Champions League. Yes, they're first place in the Scottish Premier League at the moment, but in terms of European football, they just seem to be lacking that quality. At the end of the day, in terms of form, Shakhtar just seem to be a better team, and I am going to give them a 2-1 win. Although saying that, the only point Celtic have gotten in the Champions League so far was versus Shakhtar, but just looking at Shakhtar, they were just so ruthless as a team. I mean, you know they're ruthless when they make Antonio Rudiger bleed.
Do you bleed?
Dynamo Zagreb versus AC Milan is the next fixture we're going to be talking about, and to be honest, it's a relatively easy one for me. I am going to go with a 2-0 win, although saying that, as we know, Zagreb is a top quality team. They have the ability to take points from absolutely anyone, but the only team in their group so far this season that they haven't taken points from in the Champions League is AC Milan. Yes, I know they've lost weird points here and there. They really did seem to struggle versus Chelsea in their 2 previous games, but versus Zagreb, I don't see them really having a problem, and they should take this one relatively comfortable. Jumping straight into our next game, we have PSG versus Haifa. Now, obviously, I want to apologize for Haifa. Obviously, they got that win versus Juventus in their previous game, which was seriously impressive. I definitely didn't see that one coming, and it definitely taught me a lot about this Israeli team. The fact that you cannot sleep on them. But looking at them versus PSG, arguably one of the best teams in the world. PSG has hit some seriously good form this season, and I just don't see Haifa being the first team PSG lose points to. Although it is football, I've just seen in the Premier League, Liverpool beats Man City, then lose to Nottingham Forest, so absolutely anything can happen. But this time around, I do think PSG will win. I do think maybe Haifa have a chance, maybe they'll get a goal like they did in the previous fixture versus PSG, but at the end of the day, PSG hitting some seriously good form. I just don't see them losing. Next up, we've got a fixture that, to be honest with you, I'm not going to have any problems in terms of a prediction, as it is RB Leipzig versus Real Madrid. I do think that Real Madrid are going to take this one, although I do think it'll be slightly closer than many people think, because looking at RB Leipzig, they've had a serious change in form since new management came in. But looking at Real Madrid once again, maybe arguably the best team in world football. Looking at them, they've just brought the Ballon d'Or home with Karim the Dream Benzema. Once again, this Real Madrid team is just so good, and I don't see them losing versus RB Leipzig. Although RB Leipzig have hit some good form, they've got some top players and some top quality form, like Nkunku and one or two others. There can only be one winner. Now next up, we've got a relatively close game to talk about, as it is Club Brugge versus Porto. Now Club Brugge have impressed me on such a high level this season. They've gone unbeaten in the Champions League, which I believe it's the first ever Belgian club to do so after 4 games in the competition, which once again so seriously impressive. Last time they played against Porto, it was a 4-0 win. I've still got no idea how it happened, but this is a serious team in form. Obviously Simon Mignolet was absolutely brilliant, really showing that maybe Liverpool did make a mistake, obviously benching him over Loris Karius. I mean, can you imagine the Champions League final if Mignolet played instead? The course of history in football would have changed. But look here, Porto, they've got some really good results as of late in the Portuguese league since these two teams last played against each other, and I do feel like it will be a very close encounter despite the result last time. I do think there will still be 4 goals involved, but for some reason I do believe it will be a 2-2 draw. We then have Inter versus Plzen. Now, as we know, if Inter beats Plzen, they knock Barcelona out of the Champions League.
Oh shit, here we go again.
As much as I want to write some fairy tale story for Barcelona, I just don't see it happening. Looking at Plzen, they haven't won a single game in the Champions League, conceding 4 goals on average over the course of their 4 Champions League games, conceding 16 and 4. It hasn't been great for them, and I don't see anything changing here, as I see them losing 2-0 to Inter. Once again, Inter maybe not hitting some of the heights I thought they would this season, but versus Plzen, you would at least expect a result. Okay, now that we've gotten that fixture out of the way, a game that was very one-sided, we've got a game that could absolutely go either way, as it is Ajax versus Liverpool. Now yes, as we know, looking at statistics right here, it seems like Liverpool have been in better form in the Champions League, but as we know, they are so wildly unpredictable at the moment. Beating Manchester City, which no one thought was possible, then losing to Nottingham Forest, which no one thought was possible. This Liverpool team is so unpredictable at the moment, and we could see them really go either way versus a team like Ajax. As we know, Ajax, their results haven't been great in the Champions League, but in the Eredivisie, they've been top class, scoring 28 goals in their last 11 games. A team like that could be very impressive versus Liverpool, especially because looking at these two teams, last time they faced against each other, it was very close, and I would argue that a lot of the top players who were stars for Liverpool in that fixture are now injured. Looking at Diogo Jota, looking at Luis Diaz, and all the players that made the difference for Liverpool last time they faced Ajax are now out injured, and we could see a real problem for Jurgen Klopp. And that's the reason why, I can't believe I'm saying this, I'm going to get a lot of hate for it from Liverpool fans, which I'm a United fan. I'm always going to get that.
You suck!
But this time around, I can see Ajax winning this one, and I can see it going to a 3-2 game. It will be highly entertaining, but we'll have to wait and see. Atletico Madrid versus Bayer Leverkusen is next. Now this is a game that I feel like is relatively easy to predict. I know looking at both of these two teams, Bayer Leverkusen won the last fixture between them, but Atletico Madrid has hit some really good form at the moment. In their last 5 games, they've gone unbeaten. We're looking at Bayer Leverkusen under new management of Xabi Alonso. They haven't been great. A lot of people are saying, but he's one of the best defensive midfielders of all time. How could that happen? Trust me, I'm a Man United fan. I'm not that impressed, or I'm not that surprised that a former player hasn't done well as a manager.
First time.
It's not a new story to me. So looking at Bayer Leverkusen, unless they make some serious changes in their form, I can see Atletico Madrid winning this one. They are in better form, and I'm going to go with a 2-1 win or a 2-0 win. Next up, we have arguably the biggest game of round 5 of the competition, Barcelona versus Bayern Munich. Now, as we know, Barcelona so desperately need to get a point here. At the same time, Inter need to lose versus Plzen. Do I think it's possible? Once again, it's not going to be easy. Looking at the last few fixtures between these two teams, last time Barcelona won versus Bayern Munich was in 2015. Bayern Munich have won the last 5 meetings since then. It is not going to be an easy one, and to be honest, this time around, I can see Bayern Munich winning this one 3-2. I do think Barcelona are going to give it absolutely everything they've got. They've been playing some really attractive football at the moment in La Liga, but as we know in the Champions League, they still seem to be bottling it. They have a Champions League curse at the moment, and Bayern Munich have just been top tier. Eintracht Frankfurt versus Marseille is next. As we know, a very, very close encounter. Last time these two teams played against each other, Eintracht Frankfurt picked up their first ever Champions League win. But looking at these two teams on form, it's a very, very weird story, because Eintracht Frankfurt went from being in the relegation zone to somehow being in the top 4 of the Bundesliga. Once again, no idea how they managed to pull it back. It's kind of like Wayne Rooney's hair over the last few years.
Hello there.
And looking at Marseille, although there was a stage where they were second in the French league, they've dropped down to 5th, losing their last 3 French league games. To be fair to them, they've majority been against top opposition. This will be a very, very close game, and although in slightly worse form, I'm going to somehow go for Marseille. Once again, nothing bad versus Eintracht Frankfurt. They've had some very top moments in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga at the moment. Once again, it's kind of just a gut feeling that Marseille will rise in form. That takes us to our second final game of Champions League Round 5, and we have Napoli versus Rangers. Once again, very, very easy prediction for me. I'm going to go for exactly what the result was last time, with a 3-0 win in Napoli's favour. Once again, Rangers not even top of the Scottish Premier League at the moment. They've lost every single Champions League game so far. Where Napoli are just firing on every single cylinder, they just look like such a well-oiled machine at the moment, and I can't see them dropping points versus Rangers. I'm sorry. And that takes us to our final game of Champions League Round 5. Once again, guys, don't forget that if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe down below. We are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, so insanely close. I would really appreciate hitting it. But look at these two teams. Once again, I've got no idea what to make of Tottenham Hotspurs. One second, they look absolutely brilliant. The next second, they lose to Newcastle United in the Premier League. As we know, last time these two teams faced against each other, Sporting did win 2-0, both extra time goals, and I just have no idea what to make of Tottenham Hotspurs. They just seem to have that ability to switch off at the back. They've always kind of notoriously been known for that. And looking at Sporting, although yes, they do have a fantastic team, they haven't been great so far this season. They haven't been great in terms of the Champions League, in terms of some of their performances, and they definitely haven't been great in the Portuguese league at the moment. I think looking at these two teams, it could be incredibly, incredibly close, but I do think Spurs will take this one. I've got no reason why. I mean, Spurs always seem to make me lose faith in their ability, but every now and then they do come back with a brilliant performance, and I do think they'll do it this time around. Although, as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Sporting won it. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is it for my Champions League Round 5 predictions. Once again, I hope that you guys did enjoy it. Yes, I know it wasn't so heavily edited. As I said, I do have, unfortunately, a few things to get done, but I did want the video out in time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all of the good stuff, along with leaving your predictions down below. Guys, I hope that you guys did enjoy this video. But until next time, Finn, FYNN, cheers.